Conducting our service today is Rabbi Michael Sommer.
In this moment, they're simply vaulting the casket. We place earth and Israel, the peace of our original home. Just before we begin, once we have concluded with mourner's cottage, we will lower and pray silently. Yes, I am El Harim. Me'ayin Yavo Ezri. Esayenai El Harim. Me'ayin Yavo Ezri. Ezri Me'im Adonai Ose Shemayim Va'aretz Ezri Me'im Adonai Ose Shemayim Va'aretz Esayenai El Harim Me'ayin Yavo Ezri Esayenai El Harim Me'ayin Yavo Ezri Ezri Me'im Adonai Ose Shemayim Va'aretz Ezri Me'im Adonai Ose Shemayim Va'aretz. The psalmist in those words wrote long ago, I lift my eyes to the mountains. What is the source of my help? My help comes from Adonai, maker of heaven and earth. God will not let your foot give way. Your protector will not slumber. See, the protector of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. God is your guardian. God is your protection at your right hand. The sun will not strike you by day, nor the moon by night. God will guard you from all harm. God will guard your soul, your going and coming, now and forever. Ose shalom b'moma, Ose shalom, Yase shalom, Shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael. A poet once wrote, what is the measure of a man? His measure is the kind words people say when he isn't there, and the memories he creates that stay indelible in the minds of all who knew him. What is the measure of a man? It is the amount of love he leaves in people's hearts and the laughter he leaves upon people's lips. It is the length of time he's remembered, his good deeds and his kind words, measured in the length of years. Stories of his best moments and loving kindness get told alike. We try to live the best lives we know how. We do our best to bring more laughter, more kindness, more love into the world, and to care for the people who are important to our lives. David Lisberg lived an incredible 84 years. Family was everything to him. Son of Irving and Esther, both of blessed memory. Beloved husband of Kathy for what would have been 57 years this August. Brother of his late twin sister Diane and his late brother Bert, both of blessed memory. Father of Amy and her husband Tony, and Bob and his wife Jocelyn. Cherished grandfather of Jack, Jordan, Lucy, and Jalen. May David's memory always be a blessing as we celebrate who he was and all he added to your lives. A poet wrote, if you are reading this, then I must be gone. Remember me true, my good days and bad, although I hope our memories hold more smiles than pain. Remember the days filled with laughter, that your tears may hold some sweetness and less sorrow. I never claimed perfection, although I'm still convinced I was right a lot. But please forgive me those moments when I couldn't admit I was wrong. Life is built day upon day where memories accumulate like fallen leaves in autumn. We keep only the most special and colorful ones, while the rest are swept away and forgotten. I'm so blessed for all my days you filled with so much color, If this is being read, and I'm off elsewhere never to return, remember my love for you more than anything else, because in the end, that is the best gift that I can leave you. The Byrds made popular these ancient words of Ecclesiastes when they sang that there is a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot, a time to tear down and a time to build, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to scatter stones and a time to gather them, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to search and a time to give up, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to mend, a time to be silent and a time to speak. And now is the time we speak of David's incredible life, as I invite his wife Kathy to speak of her husband.
Thank you all for being here. Spoiler alert, David Lisberg was the love of my life. Guy. I oftentimes told him that my life truly began when we met and started our life together. And what a life it was. Children will speak to his role as a father, but as his wife, I can affirm that he was kind and gentle. David was rarely angry, and he had a beautiful smile. I always have directors, you know. And he had a beautiful smile. He was the only person I knew that could sit in traffic for hours and walk into the house singing. He never missed an opportunity to show his love, respect, and devotion to me, his children, and his grandchildren. He was always sensitive to those in need and more than ready to offer a helping hand. We enjoyed all the same things, be it travel or theater, concerts, or just hanging out with the kids. We had such fun with our friends, but really treasured our time alone. David loved the constant parade of our children's friends in and out of our home. He thought name tags would have been a really good idea because there were too many to remember. Our house was open to all, and he always made family and friends feel welcome. He was fun and funny. He refused to take anything too seriously, and he lived by the motto, anything not health related is just not important. Our marriage was old school and quite traditional. He worked very hard, and I spent the money. However, when I wanted to start a business of my own, he made it happen. And I believe that his memory will be cherished by all.
I invite Amy back up to speak about her dad.
I've, tr- I've truly been at a loss for words since last Thursday. While, while I knew the inevitable was happening, I found myself in a state between this is for the absolute best and please can he just wake up so I can have one more day. As I see all our family and friends who have gathered here today and those who I know are joining us virtually, my dad is smiling from above. He would have been 81 next week, and I know he's thinking they finally are giving me that party I wanted. Last year for his 80th, he wanted a big celebration to mark the milestone. He loved to dance with my mom and wanted a party with dancing and music to celebrate. However, he acquiesced to a small but meaningful gathering with family as his current condition didn't allow for much more. While he still talked about that night and how special it was, he would have really liked the celebration of his life. There is no one more fitting for a steakhouse Shiva than my dad. We presented my dad with a book at his 80th of pictures and messages from all the people whom he loved and from those who truly loved him. The messages were all similar in theme. My dad was generous and loving, kind and funny, diligent, hardworking, brave, and courageous. The example he set for how to be a loving husband, father, and grandfather were unmatched. The messages were from both his oldest childhood friends from Lawndale Ave, but also from newer friends from the life they'd more recently made in Florida, and everyone in between. I was in awe about the impact my dad seemed to have on everyone he came in contact with, regardless of in what stage of life they met him. When I try to recount the memories or moments I wanted to share today about my dad, it's not just one thing that stands out. It's the compilation of all the little things in his life that made him special. It was his love of music that started at a young age. It led him to be the drum major in his high school band and resulted in many a night in our Aurora house where he would sit at the piano and sing the songs from West Side Story and Sound of Music. And the car rides I had with him, where he would try to harmonize with me, his tone-deaf daughter, really tone-deaf, as we sang holiday music together. And the many trips into the city to see musical theater. My dad loved the theater. And it was the video we just watched of him last night, singing in perfect pitch the song my mom wrote for him for his 80th to the melody of Frank Sinatra's My Way. It was his love of days spent working at the family news agencies in Aurora and Naperville. My mom would recount how my dad never complained in their early days together about the 4 a.m. wake up to begin the day as a newspaper man. As kids, we would run through the warehouse and spend time in the comic book room, which to us was like out to temple, dinner, or the theater. As he embraced retired life, he frequently was spotted in more casual attire, T-shirts representing the Big Ten colleges, where mine and Bob's kids attended. And let's not forget his scent. Old Spice was his fragrance of choice. Spicy and fresh, one might say. Even with the difficulty he had in these latter years with his fingers and hands, stress and routine would always end with a splash of Old Spice aftershave on his hands and some quick taps to his face. It was his innate leadership abilities and love for community that made him special. My memory of him being on the bima with me at my bat mitzvah as not only my dad, but as temple president. As my grandfather was one of the temple founders, I remember feeling a great sense of pride at the position my dad had and thinking how lucky my parents were to have the wonderful temple community that was an integral part of their life in Aurora. My dad was always giving back to the community, not just financially, but with his time and commitment as a leader to ensure the Jewish community in Aurora was a vibrant one. And we can't forget about my dad's smile, the smile that beamed whenever my mom came into the room, and the smile that welcomed all our friends into our home growing up. He loved kibitzing with our friends and being part of the daily gossip. That smile I saw on his face as I spotted him at the gate on my first overnight camp visiting day. By the way, he was wearing a Madras shirt that day, albeit short-sleeved, because after all, it was summer. He really was. And the smile that beamed when he became a papa to Jordan and Jap. And the smile that appeared every visit he made to Boston to spend time with them. And the smile that came when he told a really good joke. My dad loved a good joke. And that smile that began to fade over the past few years as a result of his condition, but that still appeared slightly when he took the pile in a canasta game and called gin against me when we played cards. And I would be remiss not to include his love of golf as one of the little things in his life that made him special. Obviously, this passion wasn't so unique. He's one of 66 million people in the world who play. But it is what the game gave my dad that was special. Like with all golfers, early on it was a pastime, a sport to engage in with his friends and Bob, a pursuit of a low-scoring round and the perfect swing, and then it morphed into a couple's activity for my mom and him to do together as they began their life as empty nesters and retirees. But in these latter years, golf gave my dad a purpose. As his condition progressed, he never gave up the quest for the perfect shot. His courage and tenacity to continue to swing the club, even when his body was failing him, was admired by all. I was a little late to the party with my love of the game, but I know he will be smiling from above as I continue my pursuit of long drives and perfect putts. And finally, the most special thing about my dad that will come as no surprise to any of you is his unconditional love for our family. The love began with my mom, a true fairy tale romance, and 60 years in, their love never wavered. And that love trickled down to Bob and I. His guidance, advice, unwavering support in everything we did was evident every single day. My dad was the epitome of a family man. We were his everything, and as long as we all had our health and each other, nothing else mattered. The epitome of a family man continued with a warm embrace of Tony and JoJo as he accepted them as members of our family immediately, without hesitation or reservation. Admittedly, that was after a rather uncomfortable interaction between Dad and Tony in a men's room on our first family date. But that's a story for another time. And then came the grandkids, Jack, Jordan, Jalen, born within weeks of each other, with Lucy to follow a few years later. Our family was complete, as my dad treasured every minute he spent with our kids. My dad lived his life with purpose. He taught us how to love and be loved. He taught us the importance of hard work, the importance of community, and the importance of having a really good sense of humor. It's ironic that the one constant phrase I heard throughout my entire life was, as long as you have your health, nothing else mattered. Well, my dad, as with most of his bits of wisdom, was right about that too. But he lived his life the fullest. And his legacy will continue to live on in us and his grandchildren, whom will fondly always remember him as the man they called Papa.
I call up David's grandchildren to speak.
Oh, there we go. It's a little tight back here. I'm Jack, the grandson. There's a common theme for all these speeches. We all wrote them separately, but kind of all saying the same thing. Papa loved to golf, and of course that's what I'm going to talk about for the next few minutes. Everybody knew his love for the game, and whenever he got the chance, he was trying to teach you how to swing the club. But I think only a few understood how much golf translated to his life, and so I'll start off with a quote from Bobby Jones, who was one of the co-founders of the Masters. Golf is the closest game to the game we call life. You get bad breaks from good shots, you get good breaks from bad shots, but you have to play the ball where it lies. Papa made the best of the situations, both when presented with great opportunities as well as incredible challenges. He was persistently optimistic about what the next day might bring. Some days were tough, some days were easy. Some days he was puring 8 irons, and some days he was literally falling down. And if there's one thing I can take away from Papa, it's that you need to embrace the good shots, the bad shots, and you need to be enthusiastic about every shot you take, because there's no point in dwelling over that scald 8 iron that you shanked into the water yesterday. He approached each day the same, even when the days got a little bit harder. But as many bad days or bad shots there were, he woke up with the courage to try and make that day one of the good ones. Over the last few years, I came to appreciate the challenge he had when trying to communicate. Some of you may not know this, but I struggled and still struggle with a stutter. And watching Papa made me understand the courage it took to stand in front of a room full of people and tell a joke, like he did during his 80th birthday. I swear he was saving his voice for the past 3 years just for that moment, and he crushed it. His bravery and enthusiasm will be what I carry with me through life, and like I said last year at his birthday, as I embark on my career and my life, what has and will continue to guide me is to be the type of man, father, husband, and grandfather that he has always been.
I'm Jalen. It's still hard for me to believe that this is happening. I know I speak for everyone here when I say that we're heartbroken to be standing here today. For those of you who don't know, I had the privilege of living with my Grammy and Papa for a couple of summers. During that time together, I made some of the best memories with my Papa. He's one of the most unintentionally funny people I know. One thing we always did was go to the Diversey driving range on Fridays for lunch and a practice session. When we would finish our bucket of balls, Papa would either try to walk out onto the range to retrieve more, or would try to steal balls from the teaching stations near us when the instructor stepped away. He was always so stubborn, but it was only because he was so fiercely passionate and committed to everything he did. I have and always will admire his sense of eagerness and dedication to not...
All wonderful things to remember my dad by, but I would be remiss if I did not mention that one of the things I admired most about my father was how he handled adversity. When diagnosed with Parkinson's, my dad took the bull by the horns and never made any excuses. There was never a day he felt sorry for himself, despite what I know were the most frustrating circumstances. He was optimistic and cheerful to the very end, and I might add that he and I enjoyed a few holes together the week before last. He never let the disease win. I will always remember knowing how much my